All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. AfterShoX 043 coming to you from Eagle's Nest 2 Studio A. Your faithful host, Kid Harlan. Ice cold chilling like Kavicha Karvashkalia. Yeah, he is chilling, isn't he? Anyways, as always, we'd like to welcome you back into the Foxhole. A little bit late this week, working on some technical improvements. I'm sure you may or may not notice, but trying to make the production smoother as I've been saying all along. We got a great show in front of you, but as always, we need you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please do that. Help us out. Details will pop up throughout the intermissions. Keep an eye on that. Always like to thank our folks at Rode, Zoom, Potenzic, all the folks out there who provide the wonderful tools that make this podcast pop, among other things. All right. Got quite a basketball game going on in the Metroplex. Show you the view, but we'd get a copyright strike for something like that. Anyway, AfterShoX 043, Season 2, Episode 11, coming at you right now. Okay, where are we going with this? This is playoffs. Excuse me. Need a little drink here, real quick. Scratchy throat. Another sign. Allergy season is about to hit the Willamette Valley, as May and June is an insufferable month for those of us who have problems with grass and those big grass seed farms over there in Lynn County that blow down to the south and cause havoc for about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how much Claritin you deal with. All right, anyway. What are we going to call this first segment? I think we're going to call it Keeping It Real in a World of Phonies. Like I mentioned, the Lakers and Thunder battling it out there in Game 2. Interesting enough, the Lakers hanging in after looking like they were going to get pummeled again. But they're hanging. But there's still time for Oklahoma City to cover that 15-point spread or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's start up with in a world of phonies. Let's start off with Boston. My oh my, did you really sell us a bill of goods as far as being a legitimate title contender and a franchise as constructed could string together a few championships and etch their place in history, as opposed to just being more of possibly a revolving door, depending what Oklahoma City does this year, of teams that can win the chip and then various occurrences they don't get back or they scratch the surface. Because you figure, they lost to the Celtics. Celtics. Warriors come out to play. And then, they get the chip. But what was interesting is some of the moves they didn't make in the offseason, or people they didn't retain, as many people have pointed out. Porzingis. Yeah, it's just really interesting when I sit there and think about how that came apart from them. And Horford, another guy they should have kept. Brown, who everybody was talking about, well, not Brown, but it escapes my name. Should take better notes. Derek, what's his name? Anyways, he looked pretty ordinary. But I think the weird takeaway for me would probably be Mr. Brown. He was totally browning it, calling out Embiid, flopping. Everybody flops in the league, yes. I just felt like maybe you could have gone on somebody's podcast maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the line. It so came across as the sourest of grapes. It was so unnecessary, I kind of thought. I know, color me bad, any way you want to look at it, but I just feel like, come on, man. At this point, take the L, walk away. You lost to a 76er team you had no business losing to. Given that once you got Mr. Tatum back, of course his injury didn't help things, but it didn't matter. Because once Embiid said, hey, I can play for a few minutes, hop on my back, and obviously the supporting cast, Mr. Maxey and others. Anyway, next up, keeping it real in a world of phonies, Houston, we have a problem. And this might sound like a broken record coming on my end, over time. As I've always pointed out, this even before with this current cast, with KD, Houston would go on these ridiculous runs, double-digit wins, doing this. And it all seems to happen before March 1st. And then March 1st, it's almost like, right, that you pull off the mask and it shows you that you're the great pretender. And I know there was no KD, but still, listen to this Lakers squad that it's got a lot of heart, but given where Houston was, and homie said, well, I think we're the better team. Well, scoreboard says you ain't. Don't have to be big bad Brad with the brains to figure that one out, do you now? The thing is, I haven't really been paying attention to all this nonsense with the burner phones, but apparently it caused a little rip in the clubhouse, and we've spoke about this on the platforms. Anyway, check out Foxhole and the Foxhole. What is it going to be? Episode 313 coming this week. Maybe some trimmers coming. But yeah, we've talked about that on this platform in the last 6 years. About KD, his numerous beefs going back to OKC. Obviously, what happened to him in Money Green 23. More about him throughout the week. You can guarantee that. Because boy, is he causing a stink. But back to KD. Such a mercurial figure, wouldn't you say, as far as his career goes? I mean, I've never really heard. I mean, yes, him and Draymond got into it, egos, and Draymond being Draymond. I haven't really heard people say he was a horrible teammate. You didn't want to be around him. I mean, he is a diva, like many people in the league. I don't know. We won't spend too much time with that because I've been beating Houston up for a while. And where are they at? They're in Cancun. Saw it last night. As far as, that ESPN, NBA ESPN as it's called now. Mm-hmm. This guy still has a great sense of humor. I must say that. But this Minnesota and San Antonio, it's definitely an example of the rubber hitting the road. I didn't think Minnesota was going to be able to get it done. And they bullied Denver. And I think Denver has to look in the mirror. I talked about that in episode 312 of Fox, running in a Foxhole. But I'm more intrigued about this series. We've played 2 games. One where Minnesota kind of showed a lot of fight to take game 1. And then San Antonio kind of showed you in game 2 why they are scary as you know what. I mean, God, wasn't that like 50 or close to 60 at one point? It was a thrashing. That's the takeaway. I do believe Minnesota got what it needed by taking game 1. I'm with those on TV today who said, don't be surprised if Minnesota win games 3 and 4 when the series shifts to the Twin Cities. I don't know if I can go that far, but I'm still going to stick to, San Antonio has to take its licks. That whole Richard Pryor line I'm always bringing up. Which way is up? If you know the line, as they say, if you know, you definitely know. Okay. Lakers are trailing by 4 with about just a little bit under 6 minutes and change. Oklahoma City I think flexing a little bit. Um, Speaking of the Lakers, isn't it interesting, Rich Paul? You know, obviously, he's got a platform and he's got plenty to say. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think it's interesting that he came out and was saying that they, at the agency Clutch, they've lost out on a lot of potential clients, some high profile. Why, may you ask, the Foxhole? Apparently, there is, we won't say universal, but a lot of widespread, I know a lot of widespread, what the hell does that even mean? But we'll just say widespread disdain for the Kang stay the Kang. No shock here. But then again, it's one of those things that, do you hate LeBron? You get street cred on your platform with the homies because anytime there's a microphone in his face, it's, oh, hey, I grew up watching him, and you're basically, kissing the ring, Michael Corleone kind of shit. Pardon my language. We need the cuss jar up in here. But anyways, it just cracks me up because I just don't know what to think when I see something like that. Widespread disdain. Yeah, there's a couple of people who, have a couple of words and you see it. But in general, when people are asked, it doesn't seem to be what Rich Paul is. But no, Rich Paul is trying to build this brand, even though he's married to Adele and has got more money than 89 lifetimes. But they're trying to build their brand, and, it is what it is because this is the world we live in where you say something provocative or inflammatory. Not insightful, usually. That isn't going to get you any engagement. Okay, lastly, I almost feel like I'm like everybody else on social media right now. The amount of social media creators for the W, especially the Caitlin Clark, are they like disciples? I mean, there's some interesting cats out there, right? I talk about Maurice from Keep the Vision, obviously the lovely Rachel Demita, but she's not so much a Caitlyn simp. She's actually way more balanced. The cat that was on Whitlock, obviously Ben Daniels' podcast, where you call a spade a spade. It's so interesting, though. I mean, everything surrounding this league where, and I'm not going there. I'll let the Whitlocks and Coach JBs and those guys with that get me a sandwich talk. Y'all can have that. I ain't going there, man. But what I cannot miss is just what a freak show this is. I mean, okay, obviously the Met Gala is where everybody can strut their stuff, and obviously the queens on the court were full display of the Met Gala. And I asked the question once again. Do you want to be known for your athletic prowess, or do you really want to walk the runway? I don't know. But one thing I can say, so far we're cooking. Lakers are hanging in there, only trailing by 4, which is, a good thing, I suppose. Anyways, we'll be back in 2 snaps and a twist.
See that it's in Oklahoma City, not like I would like the Lakers to be the next dynasty. We both would, but the fact that it's a small market team that really had to build up from the ground up, I think is definitely a good sign.
Yeah, they have an incredible, Sam Presti.
Sam Presti is incredible.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just
great.
Heck,
I mean, if you really think of
chase formula has been changed. That's big. I mean, they're going back to 2004 again. This is a big change. We've had this 3 rounds and move on and win and you're in type stuff now for quite a while.
They're at stupid level. Okay. But somehow the guy comes back, wins the 4th set, then they go into 5th set, and he pulls it off. And it's just a nutcase situation.
All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. AfterShoX 043 coming to you on a wonderful Thursday. One day before TGI Evident. And because we got off to a late start, you're getting me double dose back to back. Episode 313. I will squeeze that in tomorrow. It's a crazy week. Went out with SJ. If SJ gets down, and our homie Crystal to go see the Floozies at the Wow Hall. Little EDM. We'll be talking about that, probably some segment in the scene, which is really about the pop. But we'll talk about that at some other point. Then yesterday, double dipping with CONCACAF and obviously UEFA Champions League. And so, yeah. All this stuff going on, that's why this came out a little bit late. Plus, we are fooling around with some new toys and things like that. We're not just toys, but just stuff we've been trying to incorporate, but now we feel a little bit more comfortable moving forward with some different techniques and looks, and hopefully just improve the overall production quality. Yeah, because it is a high fidelity experience, is what we told you way back when we started foxtrotting in a foxhole. I know, we're almost on the verge of the 6th anniversary of that as far as FTINFX media. Always like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll pop up as far as the Addy. It doesn't cost you anything. We're not going to spam you with anything, but you'll be helping a brother out, which we really need. Tell your friends too. Please, help a brother out. Do I have to really start banging on you folks whenever I see you? Hey, Ken, you'd have to go out for people to see you. What can I tell you? It's a rough world out there. Going out to the bar and getting adult bevs, man, you got to be pulling in some serious cord. We had like a pre-production meeting. Got like a pale L. It was like maybe... It was happy hour, so it was 6, but normally it would have been 7. It was like 5.2. I'm just sitting here like, man, I can get a 12-pack of hard seltzers with no sugar at the Hippie Mart for like $14.98. Do the math. Because that math be mathing for me. All right, folks. Let's get cooking here. Oh, geez. This may take me a minute. Lakers now down by 11. See, this is what happens when you take a break and you forget to have your iPad up. Okay. We're still getting used to this new setup. So as always, bear with me while we sort of work through these things. Contact us for feedback. Or just to say hey, FTINFX@gmail.com, or leave a message on the hotline, 541-525-0896. We'd love to hear from you. Also, keep an eye out for interesting content coming from FTINFX Media. Stay tuned, y'all. Okay, we're going to call this segment The Class Project. After all, semesters are wrapping up, and if you're on the quarter or trimester system, you're heading around the final term. And so, obviously, it's been a hot minute for some of us, and some of us are still there, but you have to do that class project. Somebody pulls all the weight. The rest of us, probably like myself, slacked and found the way to oh yeah, man, we'll take the credit as long as we get the grade and hang out in the pub. Because actually, the school I went to, CSUN, we had a really good pub on campus, and we used to get stupid back before we started becoming sensible about how much illing people should probably be able to get away with. Okay, the class project. Ooh, let's not shake the table. This Brendan Sorsby thing, like so many things that are happening in our landscape right now, it just keeps having legs, and it meanders in all sorts of directions. I mean, obviously, the gambling thing hanging over his head, and like so many of these youngsters who now have been given pretty much generational wealth. I mean, what this cat was going to make 5 or 6 million at Tech? I know, the insanity. And the justifications I keep hearing about this. But we'll be breaking this out today and tomorrow. So let me not get distracted here. I'm just looking at this, and people are trying to figure out, how can we? I mean, he's got Jeffrey Kessler, that Jeffrey Kessler, prominent lawyer, basically either trying to make sure a path to being in the supplemental draft, which supposedly the Browns are interested. What the, as SJ of SJ Gets Down says, what why would you be, you already got enough madness going on there. And I would see people bring up the truth about that. They just go, y'all are bullies. Y'all won't let Shedeur have a chance. You're trying to find so many ways to undermine our king. Just say it. What are we supposed to say? They keep bringing in quarterbacks. Obviously, Jimmy Haslam ain't enthralled. The king ain't the king up on the lake. I just wonder, when it comes to him somehow getting an eligibility, what kind of whack ball judge can Jeffrey Kessler find in Texas who will just say, yeah, Of course, there's going to have to, you can, as we've already seen in Alabama and other places, Mississippi, where there's a connection to the university and the program. If you've been following my podcast, or now this web series, you know what I think about these whackball judges and the fact that we're allowing this with many things since the toothpaste was squeezed out of the tube way back in 2020 when this madness began. Shortly after this podcast began, so we've been here pretty much from the beginning, and it's been pretty much spot on a lot of things that have transpired. But then again, there are some things that are jumping. What I used to call it way back in the beginning, how many Jack in the Boxes are we going to have for the Jack goes, pling! Guess what? You didn't see this one coming. And in this particular case, I will admit, I did call a lot of it right, but there was just things I was just like, wow. We didn't consider this is going to be a possibility. Lakers down by 12, 22 seconds left in the third quarter. This is just a timestamp, just to let you know when we're doing this for kicks and giggles. No. Let me get back on the tracks. More about Sorsby as this goes along, but something tells me this is just one more level of shenanigans, and what seems to be an endless chamber of them when it comes to the NIL transfer portal. Let's have gambling be a part of this nexus. Is it a madness? Is it nightmare? You tell me. So I haven't had time to unpack this. I hope to get a little bit closer in episode 313 tomorrow. Apparently the NCAA has finally put the stamp down on the spirit of 76. See, I first thought it was oh no, we've got the 24 thing going on. I was just oh man, I don't even ready for this. But it's no, the spirit of 76. And that's expanding the tournament from 68 to 76. And once again, hey, it must be in the water or something. If you follow my podcast, Foxtrotting the Foxhole, remember when I was saying about, I wanted 96. And I was making a whole month out of it. And like I said, I haven't had time to unpack this, but what I kind of got a quick glimpse of, they are going to really turn this thing where there's going to be 12 teams, maybe a whole week or something like that, I think it should be the whole month, but I think it's going to be like a week or two. Then that folds into the traditional 64, which all the people are belly aching, and they have a right to, because if we're going to get a bunch of slop like we have with the Bulls, and have a bunch of teams like Auburn that were 16 and 15 or some shit, and under 500, but because they got a brand, they got to be in the friggin' tournament. Oh, hell no. I mean, we get it. It's all about making that money, or as my buddy and colleague SJ Gets Down says, that big bag of cash. And so that's why I wonder about this. And maybe if we're smart, because I don't want to be completely cynical, even though it's hard not to be, given, well, we've lost our minds with this damn thing. Straight up, yo. I mean, we've lost our minds to the point of, yeah, even if you get Congress to play along, there are so many whack belt judges, so many moneyed interest. I mean, how I just don't see how you get a path back. The thing is, this is really not even prepping the ground. This is kind of like going to a good brunch, Sunday brunch with your homies, your special one, and you get like a really nice appetizer, right? I don't know. Maybe get like a big plate of bacon and some burnt ends and like some mini breakfast tacos before you get the eggs Benny and all that other cool stuff that's going to be on the menu. Because this basketball talk is just prepping the ground for the thirst for 24. And this is clearly the Big Ten, the SEC, and everybody else trying to figure out the spoils so we can come up with something that's not going to get struck down, even though you're always going to find a cockamamie judge. So who knows how long the injunctions will go. But let's stay on the tracks, shall we? Oh, man. But yes, right, the thirst for 24, I think we're going to see that. I'd say, wouldn't surprise me if we had some solid foundation as far as it being in the future by July 4th, maybe the end of July at the latest, just the way it seems like it's going. It's just a matter of, the big bag of cash mofos coming to an agreement that looks fair, but isn't. Man, as my buddy SJ is always talking about, but that's not so much my buddy SJ, who we love, but let's just go back to Flo J's mom, Flash A. Johnson. And if you haven't seen that video, it's too bad. It's still out there, but it doesn't still carry the effect because now that she's in WNBA and she got that bag. But what did Flo J's mom say? We're going to get that bag because we living right. We didn't lose to South Carolina. We winning because we got that bag. Why do I bring that up? The Big Ten, that Big Ten conference, that here in Eugene, Oregon is a part of, and so is UW, UCLA, and USC, 18 teams, and guess what? In that first year, I believe, the Big Ten distributed $1.38 billion, I believe it is, to its 18 member schools. Yeah, because it's up from $500 million the previous year. So basically doubled. Adding those four powerful West Coast schools. Cha-ching, cha-ching, bada bing, bling, bling, bling. Heck yeah, man. Put some lakeside on the Fantastic Voyage as far as that goes. 18 schools. And you really have to wonder when you get that kind of bank why I brought up questions about Title IX and the non-revenue sports. Y'all telling me even with that, the kind of money you're pulling in and money and other deals you're making, that you can't fund the other programs while everybody's crying poor because it's all going back into that NIL, poaching in the transfer portal budget. And then Mark Cuban speaking, which we knew, everybody's gonna following it, knew about, yeah, I saw Mendoza at Cal, and I love when people talk about he wasn't good at Cal. I saw that early that, hey, there is something about this guy. The same way I thought about Justin Herbert, the same way I thought about my man JD5, Mr. Daniels in the nation's capital. You saw when he was at Cal. So when they went on the market, I can believe Cuban said, yeah, I'll write the check to get this guy. And this is the thing. Whether it's him, Uncle Phil, Mr. Frittata, down there deep in the heart of Texas, and all these other deep-pocketed mofos their egos are out of control. They can make this stuff happen and keep this insanity going endlessly. But then you have the flip side. This is what I don't get. The NCAA, especially when it comes up against football, I've been saying this now for 6 years, right? Forget about the tooth fairy. There was nothing. The tooth fairies took it every tooth and just said, yeah, I ain't giving these guys no goodies for this nonsense. They ain't got no teeth. But yet, when they can slap somebody like they did by Matadors a few years ago, Matadors always Matadors forever, yo. CSUN, yo. But that said, it's always them trying to flex on some school like Detroit Mercy. And I say, Detroit, can we have some mercy? This program was hit with a postseason ban for not meeting the NCAA's benchmarks for academic progress. This is something we had when Mark Gottfried was coaching at CSUN, something similar. And I'm sitting there thinking, there's two things here. One, obviously, in this day and age with AI and the whole star, what going on, that you're not making academic progress in this truly era where everything's above the board. What are you all doing at these schools? But B, why is it always a school like that? Why is it a school like mine where you come down hard when all these other schools are quicker than a dog's hind leg as far as even with it above the board? But you're going to come in a school like Detroit Mercy or CSUN. Somebody make it make sense for me, huh? I don't know. One of the other things that we saw this past week, a lot of people getting in trouble, They got the drink, they got the coke, they got the hot lady, they got the cool effing hoopity. And then, as we're always talking about, avoiding the bracelets. That's something they ain't doing. And I have to say, and I know I'm a boomer, 1964, the last of the boomers. And so I might sound like a bit of an old fuddy here, but I don't give a F. I really don't. Because common sense stays common sense. And if we really took that simple tangent in life, or tenet, I should not tangent, but tenet of life, it would be easy. You get the bag, you toe the MF in line. And if not, adults have some balls and punish those who cannot appreciate the gravy train. You know, this thing, we talked about Sourcebait at the beginning of this segment. I mean, Homeboy's was got 5 or 6 million. And you can't abide by some simple rules. Hold your money, hold your oats. I don't care if testosterone. And you can pull some Magic Johnson nonsense like he always brags about. Or all these other guys. Who cares? You play this right, you're gonna have a kingdom forever. You kind of stuff at the 9/11 hijackers were dreaming about the 70 virgins and kind of nonsense. Toe the line, and you will have the kings to the kingdom. Even if you ain't got enough game to play on Sundays, or in the association, or in the W, or in the show, or even on the ice. Yeah. All right, folks. We are really cooking it up in here. When we return, we'll come up with something else unique to talk about. I just need to take a break, reset a couple of things. We'll be back momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here, ice cold, chilling like a Vicha Kvartskhelia. More on him in a minute. Where are we going now? The Lakers are hanging in there. They've got it down to 5 and there's 8 minutes left. So as friend of the show next door, Andy G says, so you're saying there's a chance? For reals? Maybe so. Okay, we're going to call this segment Everything's Gone Green. Because I'm thinking about New Order. Good tune. Let's talk some No Fun League. We've kind of been a little bit lean, as this being kind of the lean part of the year when it comes to the America and perhaps one of the global's favorite pastimes. Let's start off with another day in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Another day in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. I know I can't sing, but hey. I don't have to sing for my supper, but I can sing on my show. Mr. Rogers and the fatigue he creates. Now, I haven't gotten to the bottom of this yet because, these things happen. Or maybe you don't. But you plan one of these shows, you make like an outline, you got all your bullet points. And then something comes across the bow, and you're just like, oh, good grief, I haven't even had time. You're setting this all up, and you take one more look at like ESPN.com, or you're even just surfing like through FaceCrack or IG, or you're on X, and you see something, you're like, oh, good grief, I gotta talk about this before you. And apparently, he's gonna be in Pittsburgh because I think OTAs are about to start. He's probably gonna make an appearance. Tell everybody, hey, what's happening? You miss me? I know you love me and need me. And the order on the campfire is he will don the black and gold for Steeler Nation in 2026. Which, okay, we know the diva-ness, all the other stuff that we've come accustomed to, but every year you get sucked into it. And of course, because of antics like this, he gets his rocks off, and also taking a few stabs at some of his ex-ladies. Hi, Danny Bear. I can only imagine what the pillow talk between those two narcissists, what that was like. I mean, it makes me want to throw up and probably be sick for a month if I was ever exposed to being around narcissists like that, because you all know when I think of narcissists, I can't stand them. Oh, man. But yeah, it's just so much fatigue, and it's just like, okay, I guess we don't have to pay attention. Pretty much knowing the Steelers just okay with being 9-7, maybe, or 9-8. Maybe 10-7 up with a few bounces, like last year, where the AFC North is like chicken and dumplings, as friend of the show and I used to say. Cooley Walker, right in front of the show. Yeah, total chicken and dumplings years, which because of the Browns and the Bengals, it could be that way a lot of the time when they decide to poop the bed. And last year, obviously, the Ravens did as well. And speaking of that division, as I mentioned earlier about Cleveland having a possible interest in Mr. Sorsby, isn't it interesting going back to folks when it comes to Shador, and you're basically called a bully if you are okay with any other scenario other than the king being given the keys to lead the Browns out of the hell they've been into. Mary Kay Cabot being savaged. I was watching my man Sean King. It's like, you got that bitch. And I'm sitting there thinking, can anybody have an opinion? And I don't know with the new regime what they're seeing. But I always feel that if you take that job, especially with Jimmy Haslam, what did the tuna? Yeah, that's right, that tuna. Bill Parcells used to say, if I'm going to cook, you got to let me shop for the groceries. And as we know, Cleveland being a graveyard for a lot of things when it comes to the Browns, you need to evaluate everything. Because after all, ain't nobody got time for losing in today's NFL. Not that they ever did before, but the runway is a hell of a lot shorter than it used to be. Yeah. It's so funny, though, because it's almost like, no, man, if you guys go another way, we're not going to get our clicks. Because this, no matter who the job gets, if it ain't Shador, the King, our king, we ain't gonna get the clicks. So it's the wackos who we all know when it comes to these little hives, or Shador sexuals in this particular case. That's one thing. But the rabbit folks that cover the game, who know is going to help their platform being able to talk about this fool. Yeah, that's why I called him a fool after seeing his brother Shiloh caping for him and how silly all of that goes. But hey, building up Brown, because we're content creators and we got a name. Yeah. Speaking of the folks who rebel rouse on the interwebs, the Coach JBs, the Korean Cosell, obviously Whitlock, the Outlaw, the Outkick Brigade, on and on and on. I was talking about the guys who do the W and the young ladies. Crazy how many streams for Caitlin card games. But I'll get into that on 313 tomorrow. But it's like what Coach Jason Brown, Coach JB and the Big Smitty show. I watched that in the mornings. So what am I going to do? Watch First Fake? Even with Skip being on tomorrow, I can't stomach Stephen A. But, we'll get to that at some point. We'll get to that maybe in the next segment. But one of the things that Coach JB is always talking about, the regression of the quarterback. And I sit there and think to myself, Josh Johnson, right, who's been passed around more than Tia Tequila back when Tia Tequila was relevant. Tyrod Taylor, who I believe is about to sign or did sign with somebody else. Then someone like Anthony Richardson, who the Colts didn't pick up his option, but he's like, I'm going to hang around. Hell, if Josh Johnson can still hold a clipboard, I might not be a starter, but I'll be getting them checks. Which I say, more power to you. But I do believe the folks who say the quarterback play has to be regression, because I'm thinking all these quarterbacks who have been drafted since Josh Johnson, you mean to tell me none of them could stick? Someone like Danny Cannell, who had a short career, but probably didn't go about it the right way. But a lot of these guys like that. You're going to tell me that the quarterback play hasn't regressed when you see stuff like this? And guys like that, as I said, more power to you. You're getting the big bag of cash, providing for your family, being a member of the community, helping the team stay strong. But come on, man. Come on, man. This whole thing with Diana Rossini and Braves, as we like to call them. I don't know what to say in terms of how insane this is. Every day, talk about not having time to unpack stuff. I'm sitting here watching stuff this morning and starting to think about stringing this all together to do this tonight. And talking about how when she was pregged, they took a boat trip. Now there's more speculation that, hey, that kid really is his. Whatever. I do agree with Sean King in this aspect and others. OPP, or OPB, right? Other people's business, not Oregon Public Broadcasting. But, our thirst for salacious stuff, I've said before. You in the public, and this stuff gets out there. That's not why it's being put out there. I'm starting to have a theory with some other folks who get the feeling, some self-righteous cat out there is out to take some people down in the sports media. That's all I'm saying. I think there's some folks out there who look at some of this tawdry behavior and raunchiness, and it offends their sensibilities, and they're like, yeah, y'all been out there doing all this stuff. I'm about to push your SHI, out in the wind. That's what I think. But, we don't want to get Oliver Stone quite yet. I was wondering if Miss Rossini could be the next Lady in Black. I already spoke about Joy Taylor pretty much pissing her stuff off, pissing whatever appeal she had, talking about, basically a bag of D's rated all over her in terms of her, appeal, which really ain't that. I could have seen Miss Rossini sort of having a platform, kind of exuding what she did and what probably got her her little boo-boo in trouble as far as this goes. Whether you think that's right or wrong, the fact is, she's in a tight spot right now. Man, I don't know if she can be the lady in black. I don't know. This thing is taking on so many weird dimensions. It's hard to know. Like a knuckleball, who knows who knows how it's gonna break. Can I just throw a quick flag on flag football? This push, whether it's boys or girls, to make this a legitimate sport. And I'm somebody who, after stopped playing tackle, loved flag football. Back in the 70s, long before you posers were all about it. But stop trying to get me to think this is going to be a sport we're really into. British Petroleum. Okay? Come on, man. I gotta throw a flag on this nonsense, man. I've just had enough. Oh, man. Another one. I was sitting there watching this piece on YouTube, late at night, being the insomniac that I always will be. It's not a good thing. However, we're talking about, Miami. And so when I grew up, when the Dolphins, were the belle of the ball, obviously they went to 3 Super Bowls, and I've talked ad nauseum about the sea of hands, how they've never, ever been the same franchise. But the thing is, when I was growing up, Miami, that was kind of where the Super Bowls used to be. And it's so interesting because it's clear that they kind of screwed the pooch on, I don't know, whatever they call that place where the Dolphins and Canes play. I mean, not terrible. The World Cup's going to be there. There's other big events. But as far as Super Bowl, it just doesn't have that. I think Mr. Ross is going to have to build one of these palatial palaces. Because it makes no sense that the Super Bowl's not in the rotation. Now that it's kind of going to be Vegas, basically. Obviously, SoFi, Levi's. Obviously some of these other folks that get cribs online because they're going to be these basically cities under glass, like in DC, probably Cleveland, and I'm not sure what's going to at Buffalo because it is kind of open whether they can attract the Super Bowl. But it just makes me interested to think that South Beach used to be down in Miami so many times, and it's just like, nah, maybe not. Okay, folks, let me see here. Where we be going next? Anyways, I'm going to regroup, get my thoughts, and we'll be back on a snap and a twist. All right now. Boy, it's been a battle here, and I see that the Thunder have 27 points on 20 turnovers. We are playing the defending champs on the road when you're down 1-0. Can't be giving it away like you're on 7th Avenue. As the Glimmer Twins once said. Shattered, Cherube. Lakers down by 13 with 5:40 left. And LeBron crying like a bee. Maybe get some stops and worry less about complaining to the officials. Yeah, LBJ. Anyway, well, we've come to that point where it is time for some Parting shots and rubbable salty takes. Okay, I wasn't gonna go here, but I can't help myself. Stephen A. Smith, or as we like to say in my part of the world, SAS, because we don't even like saying that man's name. Have you ever seen somebody? It's almost like, these ladies that are in their 50s, their late 40s, 50s, and 60s. They still kind of got their looks, but when they start going away, they're like chasing the eternal flame, and it gets further and further away, and you're desperately chasing it. I feel that way with Stephen A. Smith. Whether it's going on Cam Newton's platform, having Skip, and he can talk all the nonsense, well, blah, 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 I'm doing this thing. It's almost like this little army, right? It's almost like Fidel's, band of revolutionaries that were in the, Sierra Maestra, whatever it's called, back in, the fall of 58. That are just sitting there tearing this guy away. I mean, the Whitlocks and that whole cadre of folks who got, that little nexus is growing, and their influence is growing. And whether you agree with them or not, it is a better alternative than the slop that ESPN and FS1. And you can't believe all the ratings, because I'm with this whole new rating system, you can't believe anything there. I think the truth is that these little revolutionaries, I like to call them, they're undermining him. And you are watching this guy melt down. Anytime you make the one he is and all this crap he has and the followers, which we know is just more of the fact that people are lazy, like myself, and get their information from ESPN. And maybe because you're on X or some other platform, you follow this clown. But, to sit there and be like, blah, 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 I did this. And I give Whitlock credit for really taking Cam Newton to task. Because he came on his podcast and made Cam look like he was on the plantation. Like, yeah, master. I would be like that. You remember, what was it? Eddie, was it Delirious? The whole thing about, what people in the modern era, people in the modern age, act like they wouldn't have been forced to pick cotton. You remember when he said, yo, master, I don't want to be vulgar, but if you know the scene I'm talking about in terms of, that's what if I was Cam as far as the plantation, I'd say master, SMD. Straight up, man. When it comes to that guy, and the whole thing, but having Skip, just reaching out to all these people, trying to get his allies, like, yeah, man, see what I've got this, and I made these folks. But once again, like Fidel, Che, and those band, and that rugged band of folks that entered, I guess I can't, my brain scrambled. But we're hanging out in the jungles of Cuba. Right, 1958. These guys are that, and then slowly they're going to topple Stephen A. Like the Cuban Revolution took down the disgusting dictator in the beginning of 1959. I know, I'm silly, but it's true. It's true. Okay, so we know that this whole thing with Liv is imploding. It's not a matter of when it's going to happen. It's just going to be a dying corpse, and it's probably going to be pretty foul. It's going to probably be like my good friend that lives down the hill. She had like a horse die in her backyard, and they took whoever was responsible for, that type of disposal. It took them a hot minute, like a week and a half, to actually deal with it. I feel and it was pretty putrid from what she was telling me, which of course it was in the summertime. I think that's how it lives going to be. But I think it's interesting because, make no doubt about it, channeling Flage's mom again. We gonna get that big bag of cash. Oh, we gonna get that big bag of cash. And Bryson's like, well, my future, I'm not sure. You know, I may just focus on tournaments that want me to get so I get that big appearance fee. I might just work on my content brand, my YouTube channel, and join the Ball Boys and just make content and make money like that. Because I know you all want to see me. And I'm thinking, Bryson, boy, is that so spot on for where we are in 2026? Where somewhere you can go over, take that blood money, sports wash money, whatever you want to call it, and say, well, the PGA want to be a bunch of bitches to me when I come back, well, I'll just create content. And I've got exemptions. I'm sure some other tournaments will say, yeah, Bryson, most of you would check because we want to have a more attractive product. It's pure genius as much as it's insanity and disgusting. All kind of wrapped in the same plate. Lakers down by 15. Didn't have enough. 3 minutes left. I don't want to go dandy Don Meredith yet. We will see what happens in Game 3 in LA. But no Luka, no Pyro, no advancing to the conference finals. Definitely no Super U Laker Nation. Yeah, it sucks, but such is life. Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the F1. Well, everything, okay? 'Cause I always talk about America, as far as the jet setters go, America's favorite weekend. Right? The first weekend in May where you get in your Gulfstream, get to church, fly into Louisville, get to Churchill Downs, get your mint julep, you and your lady, or your lady and your man, the lady and the man, I should say. You know, you got your get-ups and you're living the time of your life. Decent weather. And then you get your ass down to South Beach. I'm talking about Miami again. We're F1. But I don't know, there's just something about this weekend that kind of shows both events really need a boost in the arm. SM was great. The first female trainer getting the dubs, more props there. But the fact that you're not running in the Preakness, it's just like, really? No Triple Crown? We've talked about this in the past, and it was discussed at length all week. It's not that hard. Do what golf does. Spread the majors out by a month. Right? You get the players in March, the unofficial. Then you get the Masters in April. Sometime in May, you're going to get the PGA. June, the U.S. Open. And then the British Open. Why can't you do that for the Triple Crown? Because the Triple Crown, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm going to be really harsh about this. It's kind of like if you grew up and sometimes you didn't have any money and you had to have like some mayonnaise and bread sandwiches. That's what I feel the Triple Crown is. If the Kentucky Derby, if the horses are going to run the Triple Crown, it's like an incredible finish as we saw that. Great spectacle. But without a Triple Crown, it's like a mayo sandwich. Okay, maybe it was a piece of lettuce and a tomato, but there was definitely no meat. And that's tough when you talk about the Kentucky Derby, the jewel. But I just feel we'd be much more engaged, and the sport would be less relevant. Now let's move to F1. The corner man, my brother. Shout out to you. I know you checked this out. Shout out to you. I know he wants to downplay because he talked about Mr. Antonelli, being a star, and he has been. I mean, I don't think we all saw Max and his disinterest showing him in the truck. But I was with him because he was very critical, like I've been about MLS, and we talked about that in the episode. Go check it out. Go back a ways if you should. One of our more watched episodes because he's so much fun. But Apple, I mean, I'm a sucker because I have to watch my LAFC, and you can't get good MLS games on the G Stream. I'm not ever encouraging that. I'm just saying you gotta have Apple if you don't want to watch on the G Stream. You might be able to get away with that with your Europe teams, but when it comes to MLS, trust me, I've been in some places, and it's cagada, as my buddy from Chihuahua used to say. But yeah, I don't think, how do I say this? I just don't think taking access away, it helps the product. You think, oh, I got one more stream. And maybe you think, well, F1 aficionados, and the same way that Garber thought the MLS aficionados, and that would lure other folks in. No, it's hurting your product. Stop being so stupid. I mean, if you're Apple, you're Netflix, Amazon, of course you're going to throw the dollars in mad dollars because these entities, they got endless bags of cash. But just because you can get the big bag of cash doesn't mean you can't squeeze Disney for some just so you can get access, just for the product's sake. You want more eyeballs on it, don't you? Or maybe not. It's like, hey, Ken, we are already flush. We just took Apple's money, like, F it. It just doesn't seem, to be wise to me. Okay. Getting closer to the finish line. Man, a lot of crazy stuff on the European continent and on this continent. We'll start with this one. CONCACAF Champions League, not good for MLS. Speaking of Commissioner Garber, figure this shit out with the rosters, because the way LAFC got punked last night, I mean, they got punked. Nashville didn't look as bad, but still, MLS teams came away this competition with an egg on their face. Folks in Mexico sitting back, drinking their beverage of choice, laughing their boo-boos off at the MLS. Very, very, very disgusting. Me being an LAFC fan, I was hot. Only reason I'm not depressed, because over in Europe, oh boy, what a two-way tie. Atletico and Arsenal, what a grind out event. Incredible scenes at the Emirates with Arsenal advancing. Over in Munich, very wild scenes. I have to break this down even more detail tomorrow. But Paris eking by to also make it to the final. So, and a lot to unpack with there. A lot of controversy. Football at its finest with two of the best clubs in the world, I feel. I know the Gunners fans probably have their thing to say, and we'll find out at the end of the month. But yeah, it just was an incredible two legs in both contests. Great culmination of why UEFA is it's pretty dope when it comes to soccer competitions. Not to say I don't enjoy CONCACAF, but CONCACAF is kind of a shit show. We're up here at 8,800 feet trying to, yeah, I'm not going to complain. Take the L and move on. I'll tell you more about this whole thing with Mbappe and just Real Madrid completely melting down. There was some stuff I got to unpack. I guess it was a little brawl where Valverde, I think, had to go to the hospital. You got Mbappe doing Mbappe things, pretty much. There's all these great memes of him dressed as Kim Il-sung, which Hey, dealing with his shenanigans of 7 years, I know a thing or two about that, but yeah, it's kind of crazy because everybody thought we were the assholes. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to leave you with this one. A parting shot to a true visionary, a true game changer. My man, Mr. Ted Turner, crossed the Rainbow Bridge at 87. If you're my age, you know how he. I can sit here for. I could have done a whole show talking about that guy. Whether it's giving us CNN, TBS, and being able to watch, baseball games during the week from another market, as opposed to having to wait for Monday or Sunday night or Saturday baseball or something like that. Right? So many things. Watching, TBS on cable when that first came through, was like, oh, that's kind of cool. What's the Hawks? The Hawks, the Braves. Right? Won the America's Cup. Married to Jane Fonda. I guess mentioned CNN and all that stuff. Yeah. Just a legendary figure. I remember when he got Andy Messersmith, he played the Dodgers. He said, hey, Andy, we're number 17. And instead of Messersmith, it said Channel 17 because, right, TBS used to be, WTBS was always 17 on your cable box. Anyways, a true visionary, a game changer, as I told my brother, my bro Jeff, my homie out in the Big T. I said, man, if you look up game changer, Ted Turner's picture should be there. Like I said, he was married to Hanoi Jane. And how he put up with that. I'll have two more adult beverages as far as that goes. This has nothing to do with my politics because I don't have any. You know that. All right, folks. This has been fun. Thanks for putting up with me. A little bit late this week, but I think it was well worth it as we continue to refine what we do with this platform. Stay tuned. We got a lot of kick butt stuff coming. I promise. I've been saying that for years, but it's really starting to happen now. You know what our creed always is. Stay safe. Definitely stay sane. Enjoy adult beverages. Good food with the people that matter always. And you damn better avoid those bracelets. We got too many spoiled brats down there at NIL and transfer portal land doing that for us. All right. Keep an eye out for Foxhole in a Foxhole, episode 313, dropping tomorrow. Always like and subscribe to FTINFX Media's YouTube channel. Keep it tight, keep it real, keep it clean, and we will see you soon enough.